Think we should take it slow. We're just ordinary people. We don't know which way to go, 'cause we're ordinary people. Maybe we should take it slow. Take it slow.
What about this word, value? What does it mean to you? Usually, how much you can get for your money, right? But the word value also means something else. Something that is inside you, like your feelings or your thoughts. Your values are the ideas and the things that are important to you. If you think having friends is important, then you value friendship. If you like to spend time by yourself, then you value being alone. If you want to talk over your problems with others, then you value their ideas and opinions. Your values are any of the things and ideas that are important to you. When you decide that something is important to you, you make a value decision.
Man, that's a neat camera they've got.
Usually, you decide between what you like or don't like, what seems right or wrong, or what you'll do or won't do.
Looks like they're leaving. And without their camera.
It's up to you to decide what you believe is right and how you should act.
It'd be so easy to just hang on to it.
Greg had to make a value decision. He had to choose which was most important to him. Honesty.
From the moment we are born, we begin learning. We learn how to walk, we learn how to talk, and we learn how to interact and be part of the world. But throughout all this, we're also subconsciously building our personal values. Our values are our beliefs about what we think is good. They guide our actions, speech, and thoughts, which causes us to communicate to others what we think is important, and what we think is desirable, beneficial, and beautiful. In short, personal values sum up the things we truly value, what we hold dear. Each and every one of us has a set of personal values that are distinct and different and which help to create our identity. Values also help us function as a society. They play a part in forming groups, societies, cultures and civilizations, and have done so throughout the history of the world. A culture is made up of a group of people who share the same core set of values. These are people who hold the same things dear, whether that be peace, freedom, or even on a smaller scale, a certain quality of life and family. Without a set of common values, a society wouldn't be able to exist harmoniously. Everybody would be striving for different things, therefore nobody would work together. This kind of division makes it very difficult to achieve even the most basic of tasks, from a complex project like constructing a building or even just basic survival. Values can be negative, or they can be positive. To help us understand each other, we need to have a look at what our values are. They provide an insight into our behavior and why we do the things we do. We learn and develop our values from many different sources, beginning with our families and caregivers. The most prominent source from which we draw our values are other people. This is why it's important to have positive role models such as Ben and Vanya. We see how others behave, how they interact, And through these actions, we learn what their values and beliefs are and adopt them as our own. Having strong role models in our lives makes us feel valued, important, and safe.
So we can get to positive...
Teachers can play important roles in young people's lives, providing care and support throughout their schooling.
Thank you.
Students with this type of role model are less likely to experiment in unsocial behaviour. For most children, their earliest role models are usually their parents or other family members. Although among these young people, there are other volunteers who donate themselves and their time to helping out. Volunteers around the world practice the essence of positive personal values on a daily basis as they help to rebuild, create or guide others.
Over and over, I tried to prove my love to you. Over and over, what more can I do? Over and over, my friend says I'm a fool. But over and over, I'll be a fool for you. 'Cause you've got personality, walk with personality, talk with personality, smile with personality, charm, personality, love, personality, and plus you got a great big heart. So over and over, and over, oh, I'll be a fool for you. Now over and over, what more can I do? 'Cause you've got personality, walk with personality, talk with personality, smile with personality, charm, personality, love, personality, and plus you got a great big heart. So over and over, oh, I'll be a fool for you. Now over and over, what more can I do? Whoa, over and over, I said that I love you. Over and over, honey love, it's the truth.
Attitude. It affects not only our outlook on life, but also the success of our future. Every single one of us has tremendous potential. We all have that desire for good results and success. And the one thing that determines our potential, it gives us that drive and predicts our outcome, it's our attitude. It decides the size of our dreams and influences our determination when we're faced with new challenges. And the thing is, no one can control your attitude but you. I mean, people can affect your attitude, but no one can control it unless you surrender that control. No one can make us angry. We make ourselves angry when we surrender that control of our attitude. And when people do things to anger us, all it does is put our attitude to the test. We have that choice every morning about what kind of attitude we're going to have for the rest of the day. It's up to you.
Employee attitudes within an organization are an integral part of organizational behavior. This presentation illustrates the positive and negative features of three major aspects of job attitudes. Meet Bill, an accountant at a local firm. Bill's attitude and performance on the job are representative of someone with high job satisfaction. Why don't we take a look?
Hey pal, I just wanted to tell you, you've been doing a great job, and some people upstairs have all been noticing all the hard work you've been putting in lately. We actually have a big client coming in next week. We were thinking maybe you could head up the presentation for it. If you do a good job, it might be a real big promotion in the future for you.
Hey, thanks.
Keep up the good work.
Hey, Bill, thanks a lot, man. I couldn't have balanced my books without you. You really helped me out. I was really in a bad place.
Hey, I'm glad to help you out. Just doing my job.
Thanks again.
Boy, I really love my job.
Now let's meet Gus, a co-worker of Bill. Gus displays a low level of job satisfaction and finds his job as an accountant very unfulfilling.
Why won't you balance?
Hey Gus.
Hey, how's it going?
We've been having some complaints lately.
Complaints?
I know you're working hard, but the results just aren't there. We're gonna actually need you to come play some catch-up this weekend, so we'll need you in on Saturday.
But
Thanks a lot, man. Have a good day.
Now let's meet Bob, an employee at a local bookstore. Bob actually doesn't like books or reading, so he identifies very little with his job. Bob's attitude reflects a low organizational commitment. At work, Bob couldn't care less about the needs of his customers or even his company's success. One explanation for Bob's low commitment derives from his low salary. Because of it, he is unable to afford the things he desires.
Hey there. Are you busy? Excuse me. Hey. Hey. Hello. Hey. Do you have that new Stephen Colbert, that new novel he just came out with? The Truth? What? No books.
All right, Bob. I already took care of these two, but I need you to take care of these before the night's over. Okay?
All right. Sure.
I'll see you on Monday.
See ya.
Now here's Charles, a bookstore employee. Charles shows a high level of organizational commitment. He enjoys reading and loves that he gets to be around books all day.
Hey, welcome to Book Barn. Is there anything I can help you with today?
Yes, actually, I am looking for a book for a gift for my mom.
Oh, really? Actually, I was just reading a book. I think she might like it. It's this organizational behavior book. It's a fantastic read. I'm sure she'll love it.
Thank you. Good recommendation.
You're welcome. Hi, sir. Can I help you with anything today?
Actually, I'd just like to know a little bit more about you. What's your name?
Charles.
Charles? Rich Kingsington. How's it going?
Pleasure.
Charles, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Well, hopefully still here at the Book Barn, sir.
Really, really? Well, I've heard that you're very knowledgeable, and your dedication is just what we're looking for. Like I said, I'm Rich Kingsington. I'm kind of a big deal. I work for Corporate Book Barn, and we actually need somebody with your exact skill set to take up a new position at corporate. Would you like to sit down and talk about it?
Oh, I'm certainly interested in that, yeah.
All right, right over here. Charles, if you want to take a seat.
Okay. And Mr. Nagel.
Charles. All right, ask your store manager, Mr. Nagel, to be with us today because he knows you best. And after talking with him, we are prepared to offer you this position. We just need to know that you are committed to being with us and Book Barn Corporate in the long term.
Well, sir, I am planning on being with Book Barn for a long time.
I'm glad to hear it. Well, you know what? The job's yours.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
So, start Monday. Work for you?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, Charles.
Take care.
Thank
See
you
you
very
then.
much.
See ya. Great selection. Congratulations. He's been with us, like I said, for like 5 years. Shows a high level of job commitment. He'll never leave us in the lurch. Congratulations.
Now here's Jill. Jill shows a low level of job involvement. At work, Jill distances herself from her coworkers and feels her performance on the job is unimportant.
Rabble, 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 rabble.
Rabble, 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 rabble. Rabble, rabble, rabble.
Well, rabble, 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 rabble.
I agree.
It's settled then.
Nice.
Hi guys, sorry I'm late.
Jeez.
What's going on?
Well, we just decided we're moving the Brewers to Tokyo.
I thought I was supposed to be part of that decision.
Well, Jill, the other day, Charles and I both had paperwork that needed to be filed, and you were just sitting there texting, listening to your iPod, so we figured you not involved in this job.
I just really would like to be involved in more decisions like this.
Sorry, but it's already been settled.
Tokyo it is. Hey everybody, how you doing? My name's Bob. I'm taking the time out of my day to tell you why I love my job. Like I said, my name is Bob. I'm the equipment manager for the Milwaukee Brewers. I actually am in a little dilemma right now. I'm trying to get the team's equipment to Phoenix in time for spring training. So as the manager, I'd love to have my fellow employees in on my decision process. I still can't figure out how to get the team's equipment to Phoenix on time. Hey Charles, you think you can help me out?
Yeah, sure. What's the problem?
I still can't. I'm having troubles figuring out how to get the team's equipment to Phoenix in time for spring training. Any ideas?
Well, maybe instead of using a truck, you could just fly it there.
Ah, good idea. Just go right through the sky.
Exactly.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Anytime.
See, that's why I love my job. I love letting my other employees get in on the decision process.
Job satisfaction. It's what keeps us working harder, stronger, and smarter than ever to meet our goals. In the Army, you'll get the satisfaction of constantly learning new skills and leadership qualities. Plus, you'll develop an unmistakable pride in yourself, your fellow soldiers, and all that the United States Army uniform stands for. For more than 200 years, the Army has held the front lines against people and nations who have tried to threaten our security, freedom, and way of life. Today's soldiers remain an incredibly important force, protecting the basic rights we have come to expect. Although combat training is a necessary part of being a soldier, not all soldiers are assigned to combat units. Many are hard at work, supporting the efforts of every frontline soldier. There are many ways to serve your Army, each of them just as vital to our national security. Become an expert in the latest technologies. Operate and maintain the Army's computerized tanks or other highly sophisticated battlefield equipment. Keep the Army flying high or put your skills to the test while keeping both feet on the ground. Join the ranks of the medical teams who keep the soldiers healthy, or the food service specialists and nutritionists who keep them strong. Learn how to take the lead as well as how to follow when others are in charge. The Army has been training good people like you for more than 2 centuries, teaching valuable leadership, decision-making, and team-building skills that are the qualities employers look for when they're hiring. But more importantly, in today's Army, you'll gain pride in what you've accomplished, securing our nation's freedoms and maintaining the American way of life. Army values are something that you'll carry with you the rest of your life as a soldier in the United States Army.
What's all this, Sammy boy, eh? Homework? Give me the book back, Connor. Can you read this stuff, eh? It's boring. I'm trying to prepare my defense here. You moron. Bet you look a right prat in that corner. Poncing around, playing a bee in your own brief. Have you told the jury what it feels like, eh? What it feels like? You know what I mean, Sammy. Picking up a shotgun, doing the business on your mum and dad. Make you feel good, did it, when you pulled the trigger? What's so bloody funny?
You are, Connor. You're such a classic working-class criminal stereotype.
There is more to this vicious assault than meets the eye, Your Honour.
What are you talking about, Mr. Wicks?
I think the attack was instigated by my half-brother, Duncan Pembridge.
You are saying that a prosecution witness in this case somehow arranged to have you beaten up in prison?
Exactly.
It sounds a highly unlikely scenario. But whatever happened, it has no relevance to this inquiry.
Duncan put them up to it. I'd say that was relevant.
You are wasting the court's time, Mr. Wicks. This case is about the murder of David and Alice Pembridge. Your misadventures on remand have nothing to do with that.
The reason my sister and I are here now is because of our half-brother's vendetta. Now, I submit that the assault has everything to do with this case.
I'm not going to spend any more time on this. Kindly call in the jury. Oh, Mr. Wicks, this alleged incident must not, on any account, be brought up in front of the jury. Do I make myself clear?
Yes!
Hmm?
Your Honour?
No. You must not talk to each other in that informal manner. You might easily give the impression to the jury that you were colluding in your defence. We would not want them to think that you were advising your sister on what to say. Would you, Mr. Wicks?
The thing is, Sam's utterly impossible. Never listens to advice, always thinks he knows better.
That cleverness of his will bring our client down with him if we're not careful.
There's only so much a solicitor can do, James. I made it clear to Caroline that if she knew anything untoward about Sam's role in all this, she should help her own case and say so. You know what her attitude to that was?
They stand or fall together.
Indeed. I feel sorry for the girl. I mean, looking at her, it's hard to believe she could have been involved in something like this.
If she distanced herself even slightly from her brother's story, we might get her off the murder charge at least.
Loyal to a fault.
Mr. Pembridge, could you tell the court your relationship to the accused?
They are my half-brother and sister.
They are David Pembridge's children by his first marriage?
Yes. They took their mother's maiden name after the divorce.
And on his remarriage, did your father continue to provide financially for his first two children?
Yes, he did. He was exceptionally generous to them.
Or more so than the law required of him?
That's a leading question. He's putting answers into the witness's mouth.
I'm happy to rephrase the question, Your Honour. In what way was your father generous to the accused?
He told us all on a number of occasions that we would have an equal share in his estate. He also frequently loaned Sam large sums of money.
Why did he do that?
Sam had all sorts of business schemes over the years. Dad often helped him get started, then bailed him out when they crashed, which they always did.
Was the defendant, Sam Wicks, ever refused when he asked your father for money?
Yes, once.
And when was that?
In November of last year. Sam asked for a loan to start up some sort of publishing company. We told Sam it wasn't on.
And how did he react?
He was very angry.
Mr. Pembridge, could you please tell the court what happened at the Pembridge farm on December the 16th?
It was a Sunday morning, so none of the staff were about. I came in at about 11 and found Sam and Caroline with Mum and Dad. The atmosphere was very bad. Dad took me aside and said that Sam was still going on about the loan. Dad wouldn't change his mind about it. I lost my temper and told Sam a few home truths. I was fed up with the whole business, so I went back out to the fields. I wish to God I hadn't.
Did you see your father again, alive, that day?
I saw him outside the house at about 1.
And did you see Sam or Caroline Wicks again that day?
I saw their car leaving just after 3.
And what time did you return to the house?
Just after 4.
And what did you find?
Mum and Dad weren't in the living room, so I thought they must have gone out. So I went into the kitchen to make myself some tea. They were both lying on the floor. There was blood everywhere. On the floor, the walls. They were unrecognizable.
And what else did you notice, Mr. Pembridge?
My father's shotgun was lying on the floor by his side. There was also a blanket on the floor near it.
Is this the blanket?
Yes. It's a travel blanket my mother kept in the living room.
Where was your father's shotgun kept, as a rule?
In a case in the hall. The shells were locked in a drawer.
And how many people knew where the gun and the ammunition were kept?
Apart from myself and my mother. Only Sam and Caroline that I know of.
Could you tell the court a little more about the circumstances of your birth, Mr. Pembridge?
Do I have to answer that?
Yeah.
I was born before my parents were able to marry.
How long before? Exactly.
11 years.
It's the case, isn't it? That for over 11 years, your mother and my father had a clandestine affair. During that time, the fact that he was your father was kept secret. It was only much later that he acknowledged you as his son, divorced my mother, married yours.
That has nothing to do with anything.
I think it does. You've always held a grudge against Caroline and I, haven't you?
Rubbish.
I will decide what is rubbish, Mr. Pembridge. You will answer the question.
No, I have never held a grudge.
Oh, you resented us for having the life that you thought was rightfully yours.
This has nothing to do with anything.
I will not tell you again. Answer the questions put to you.
No. I did not present anything about your life. It's a ridiculous suggestion.
If my sister and I are convicted of this murder, then you become sole beneficiary of our father's will, don't you?
You disgusting...
You need all his money to run the farm. And that's why you want us out of the way.
It's you who wanted the money. He wouldn't loan you what you wanted, so you murdered them to get hold of your share.
You're lying about the time we left so that you can pin it on us. You're taking advantage of this tragedy.
You killed them and you bloody know it.
Any lie that suited you.
Be quiet, both of you. Mr. Pembridge, you will behave yourself in the witness box. Mr. Wicks, even though some may feel it ill-advised, the undertaking of your own defense is your right. And the court is obliged to help you, but I will not have you barrack and abuse the witnesses. And you will keep your emotions in check. Now, do you have any further questions for this witness?
No. I have no questions for this person.
Mr. Pembridge, when you went back into the house at 4, the front door was open, wasn't it?
Yes.
Wasn't normally left open, was it?
No, not normally.
You told the police that the only people who had keys to the front door, apart from yourself and your parents, were Sam and Caroline Wicks. That wasn't strictly true, was it?
Yes, it is true.
Are you saying your mother was not in the habit of leaving a spare key under a plant pot?
She did do that sometimes, yes.
Why didn't you tell that to the police?
I forgot. It wasn't important.
Anyone could have picked up that key and walked into the house, couldn't they?
That's ridiculous. Yes, I suppose so.
You didn't tell the police about this spare key because you didn't want to turn attention away from the people you believed to be guilty, namely my client, Caroline Wicks, and her brother Sam.
That's not the reason. It just slipped my mind.
You're not interested in any evidence that might help to clear them, are you?
I don't understand what you're insinuating.
Don't you? I'll make myself perfectly clear then. I suggest you are prejudiced against the defendants, and your evidence is tainted as a result.
That's the game, is it? Have a go at me to distract attention from them.
You are prejudiced, aren't you?
I deny that.
Very well. How would you describe your relationship with your half-brother and sister?
We're not close. I wouldn't pretend otherwise.
There was a permanent state of simmering hostility between you and your half-brother and sister.
That wasn't my choice. They were the ones who harbored the grudge.
You hate them, don't you?
Could you blame me if I did? Yes, I hate him. I feel sorry for her.
Why do you feel sorry for her?
Because she's completely under his thumb. She'd do whatever he asked her to. She'd walk off a cliff if he said so.
Mr. Pembridge, a large number of items were stolen from the house, weren't they?
A few things. Some silver, a few ornaments. It's obvious Sam took those just to make it look like a burglary.
I suggest it's only obvious to you. If the atmosphere was so bad when you went in during the morning, how do you explain the fact that, by your account, Caroline and her brother stayed for at least a further 4 hours until 3?
I have no idea.
Actually, they left before 1, didn't they?
No, definitely not. It was 3 when I saw Sam's car leaving.
That is what you want to believe because you saw your father alive after 1 o'clock. And if my client and her brother had already left, they couldn't have killed him, could they?
I saw them leaving at 3.
You've convinced yourself of that because you desperately want it to be true. The fact is, Mr. Pembridge, you are incapable of giving any objective evidence to this jury. Is he?
It's your dad. He's had a stroke.
I had this notion that charity work mostly involves sitting in a helicopter with Bob Geldof. The truth is, this place is just bloody hard work. You look pretty good on it, though. You're developing that sort of heroic aura that makes those of us who do nothing at all feel so guilty. Actually, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. I want you to do something for me, Julia. I want you to consider putting a hold on your extremely promising legal career To go to Africa and help run a refugee program. Enduring, frankly, appalling hardships and earning almost no money into the bargain. For a year or so.
Golly. Do you spring this on all your friends?
Only the ones that I think are up to the job. Believe me, Julia, I know what I'm doing. Well, don't dismiss the idea out of hand. Think about it for a while. And if there's anything you need to know, just give me a call.
There's no point rushing up to Bolton if that's not what your mother wants. We can go on the weekend. You can make a decision about the trial after that.
It's just the thought of Sam Wicks crashing about the courtroom like some unguided missile. If I went away now, God knows what it'll have done to his sister's case by the time I get back.
Jim, she said your dad's okay. There's not a lot we can do up there anyway.
I've known the Pembridge family all my life. I used to help Alice in the farm shop in the summer months.
How well did you know Sam and Caroline Wicks?
Extremely well. I would recognize them anywhere.
Mrs. Tully, could you tell the court what happened on the afternoon of December the 16th?
I was driving along the road that runs past the Pembridge farm when I saw a car coming very fast towards me. I thought we were going to crash. I had to pull my car sharply to the side of the road.
Did you recognize the car?
Yes, I knew whose it was as soon as I saw it. It was Sam's car.
Did you see who was in the car?
Sam and Caroline.
You're sure it was them?
It was their car.
What time did this incident take place?
About 3 o'clock.
Thank you, Mrs. Tully.
Mr. Kavanagh.
It's my turn next, isn't it?
Mr. Kavanagh.
You were very close to Alice Pembridge, weren't you, Mrs. Tully?
We were very good friends. I probably knew her as well as anyone outside the family circle. She was such a good woman. She had to put up with so much.
What exactly do you mean by that?
I mean, she made every effort to establish a good relationship with Grace's children. But they took every chance they could to hurt or humiliate her.
Did she tell you that?
Oh, no, she wasn't the type to complain.
So how do you know? Well, it didn't happen while you were there, did it?
No, not in front of me.
So how do you know?
It was common knowledge.
Common knowledge? You mean village chit-chat, gossip in the pub?
Of course not.
Was it Duncan Pembridge who told you?
No.
Now, about this business of the car, Mrs. Tully. At what speed were you driving when you saw it?
About 30 miles an hour, but the other car was going much faster.
And when you saw this car coming towards you at great speed, in your lane, you naturally took evasive action.
Yes, that's right.
You turned sharply to the side of the road. And yet, while all this was going on, you still had time to see that Sam and Caroline Wicks were in the other car.
Yes.
Who was driving?
Sam. Sam was driving.
You don't seem very sure.
I'm sure it was Sam.
What was he wearing?
I don't know. There was no time to see.
What about Caroline Wicks? What was she wearing?
I can't remember.
The fact is that at the time, you weren't sure who was driving. It was only after you heard of the arrests that you began to believe it was them.
I'm completely clear in my own mind about what happened.
You are predisposed to think the worst of the defendants. And this prejudice against them has led you to a conclusion that goes far beyond what you actually saw.
I've no questions, Your Honor. Couldn't have done it better myself.
Thank you for coming, Mrs. Tully. That was most helpful.
blanket was wrapped around the gun barrels. The victims were then shot from point-blank range.
And what was the purpose of the blanket?
To muffle the sound of the shots.
Did you find the fingerprints of the defendant, Mr. Wicks, on the gun?
Yes. On the stock, on the trigger guard, and along the barrels.
Were there any other prints on the gun, Dr. Ashurst?
There were prints matching those of Duncan Pembridge and his father, as well as others that remain unidentified.
Could these have belonged to one of Mr. Pembridge's employees?
No, all the farm workers were fingerprinted. None of them matched.
So, there are fingerprints on the gun that remain unidentified and unexplained. Thank you, Dr. Ashurst.
Africa? You're out of your mind. You're ill. One of those hysterical fits that intelligent women are prone to.
At least you think I'm intelligent. I'm not ill. I just want to do something different.
You can't leave the most noble of professions to work for charity.
Oh, come on, Jeremy. You must have felt like a change.
Felt like a change? The bar isn't a bus, Julia. You can't just get on and off.
There is a big world out there, Jeremy, beyond the Inns of Court. And I'd like to see some of it, maybe do something helpful at the same time.
Julia, my dear, get a grip on yourself. Believe me, I understand the pull of compassion. I was watching a program on TV just the other night about, some famine or other. It's a bloody awful situation. Made me feel dreadful. Do you know what I did? Switched over to another channel. I felt better almost immediately. If you want to do something useful, sign a cheque.
Oh, thank you, Jeremy. I knew I could rely on you for a perceptive overview.
But what about all your friends here? They'll miss you. I'll miss you. As a chum, co-worker.
Miss Wicks, how would you describe your relationship with your father and his second wife?
It was all right. We got on.
Speak up, please, Miss Wicks.
We got on.
Where did you live after the breakup of your parents' marriage?
With Mum. She got ill, though. She had to go to the hospital.
Did you see your father much in those days?
Not to begin with. More after Mum died.
Was there any tension or disagreement between you when you met?
No. Nothing serious. I mean, we had rows sometimes, didn't we, Sam?
Please, address your answers to counsel.
Did you have a row on the morning of December the 16th?
No. Duncan made that up.
His evidence about the row that morning is untrue, then?
The only person who was angry was Duncan. He hated us being on our own with Dad. He wanted to know everything. But Dad was talking business with Sam. Poor Duncan, he gets so upset.
What time did you leave the house?
Lunchtime, before 1. We went for a burger, didn't we, Sam? Sorry.
In her evidence, Mrs. Tully described a near accident involving what she believed to be your brother's car. What do you say to that?
It never happened.
It never happened. Thank you, Miss Wicks.
Do you remember when Dad and I used to go clay pigeon shooting?
Is that the one where you throw plates up in the air?
I used Dad's shotgun, didn't I?
Yes.
So that's how my fingerprints got onto the gun.
That's a bloody lie! You never did anything like that with Dad. He wouldn't have trusted you within 10 yards of his gun.
Sit down immediately. All right, we'll have you removed from this court.
This is a bloody farce. He's feeding her the answers.
Mr. Wicks is cross-examining in a perfectly proper fashion and has every right to ask any question.
You might as well have a bloody parrot.
Now, will you sit down?
Your Honour, I find Mr. Pembridge's intervention highly intimidating. How can I get a fair trial when this is going on?
I think you are being mischievous, Mr. Wicks. However, I will not let this court descend into anarchy. Remove that man immediately. I suggest you go for a long walk, Mr. Pembridge, and calm down. Now, silence! Mr. Wicks.
Caroline, are you absolutely sure that we left the house before 1 o'clock on December the 16th?
Yes.
Were Dad and Alice alive when we left?
Yes.
Do you know anything about how they died?
It must have been a burglar.
Did you murder them, Caroline?
No.
Did I? Karen.
No, you didn't.
Miss Wicks, do you remember the night of October the 12th last year? You and your brother went to the Poacher restaurant in Chorley Village with David and Alice Pembridge, didn't you?
I can't... I don't really remember.
Well, do you remember the argument that developed between David Pembridge and Sam Wicks? An argument so violent that you were asked to leave by the manager.
No.
Well, are you saying it didn't take place?
I can't remember.
Very well, then. What about the morning of November the 23rd? Did you go to your father's farm that day?
I don't know which days we went.
You went with your brother that morning and another argument developed, this time in front of the farm manager. Voices were raised, and at one point your brother shook his fist. Well, that's true, isn't it?
I'm not saying... I didn't say we were perfect. We're just a normal family.
This argument was over money, wasn't it? The money your father wouldn't lend him to start his new business. You have lied to this court, haven't you, Miss Wicks?
No.
Your father had no intention of giving you or your brother any money, did he?
Yes, Sam needed it.
On the morning of December the 16th, he told you both yet again that he would not give Sam his loan, and a violent argument ensued, didn't it?
I can't remember. I can't remember what he said exactly.
There was a row, wasn't there?
Leave her alone!
Sit down, Mr. Wicks. I will not warn you again.
Look, he's bullying her! It's not fair!
Sit down.
I put it to you that the truth of this matter is that following a final argument over the issue of the loan, you and your brother took your father's gun and shot David and Alice Pembridge dead. Now that's the way it happened, isn't it?
No.
You've done nothing but lie about it since, have you? You love your brother, don't you?
Yes.
You'd do anything for him.
He looks after me.
He told you what to say at this trial, didn't he? He gave you the words and you memorized them.
I want to stop
But it's impossible to sustain these lies any longer, isn't it?
I'm not lying.
The sad truth is that when it became clear that there was no more money to be squeezed from your father, you cynically and cold-bloodedly murdered him and his wife to lay your hands on your inheritance. Now that's the way it happened, isn't it?
I wish they weren't dead. I wish they hadn't been shot. I miss him. It was my dad.
We make a good team, Mr. Kavanagh.
I hadn't thought of it quite that way.
I always wanted to be a lawyer, you know. Maybe I'll take it up when this is over. What do you think?
I wouldn't like to say.
A cautious answer, Mr. Kavanagh.
I like that.
I wanted to thank you for looking after Caroline.
Just doing my job, Mr. Wicks.
She's, never been the same since our parents broke up. I've had to be like a father to her. You know what's really tearing her up? How much Duncan hates us. He'll never be happy until he's destroyed us. Completely.
The court will rise.
A motive for murder is clearly identifiable. The accused wanted money. And when refused a loan, they decided to obtain it by another method. Namely, by killing their parents to inherit the estate in which they knew they had a share. The evidence of the witnesses Duncan Pembridge and Barbara Tully shows convincingly that the accused lied about the time they left the house that day. And if you accept that they did lie, then you must ask yourselves, why?
The witnesses, Duncan Pembridge and Barbara Tully, should be regarded with the utmost caution. It is quite clear that their bias against the defendants renders their evidence partial and unreliable. The circumstances of the divorce and remarriage divided the community in which the Pembridges lived and led to strong allegiances, both for and against them and their children. Those feelings ran deep, and a bitter prejudice remains. But Caroline Wicks cannot be judged on local prejudice. She must be judged on the evidence, and there is not one scrap of physical evidence that links her directly to the crime.
The truth here is that my sister and I are the victims of a cruel stroke of timing. On December the 16th, a burglar broke into the house after we'd left, and for reasons only he can explain, he killed them. That man is sitting out there somewhere now, secure in the knowledge that fate, malicious gossip, and coincidence have combined to put two innocent people where he should be. I'm asking you to find us not guilty of these charges, so that the search for the real killer can begin, and my sister and I can be given time, at last, to grieve for the father that we loved.
All this fuss over nothing.
Matt sends his love, Grandad, and he's sorry he can't be here.
If I had the choice between here and New Zealand, I know where I'd rather be.
How is it?
Oh, the doctor said it were mild as strokes go. His right hand's a bit shaky, but he'll make a complete recovery as long as he's careful.
You'll have to tie him down, then.
You're not to worry about us. You've got your work to do. It's all right. Just a bit tired, that's all.
I can be back in hours if you need me.
We'll be fine.
I could stay on. The main job's done.
You'll only fret. Go on. Come back to us when you can.
In his summing up, you heard Mr. Kavanagh suggest that this case was about a family feud, and the antagonism shown by Duncan Pembridge towards the defendants. But you might feel that that is not necessarily the vital issue. You might remember the evidence about the row on the morning of the killings. the paucity of evidence for a burglary, the fingerprints on the murder weapon, and the motive established by the prosecution. And if you were concerned that much of that evidence came from Duncan Pembridge, you may comfort yourself in the consideration that his evidence was supported in important respects by Mrs. Tully, who told you that she saw the defendants speeding away from the farm 2 hours after the time they told you they had left. Now, I must warn you to consider Mrs. Tully's evidence very carefully, to satisfy yourself that she was in a position to identify the defendants accurately.
Let Kate do that, Marjorie. You come and sit down.
No, it's all right, dear. There's not much. Actually, I do feel a bit faint. I'll just sit here a minute, it'll pass. I'll soon be myself. Oh,
Marjorie.
Oh. Listen, you're not to say anything to Alfred. I don't want him worried. It's nothing.
Call an ambulance.
Members of the jury, have you reached a verdict on which you all agree? We have. How do you find the defendant, Samuel Thomas Wicks, on the charge of murder? Guilty or not guilty? Guilty. How do you find the defendant, Caroline Angela Wicks, on the charge of murder? Guilty or not guilty? Guilty.
Why didn't she say something?
She couldn't have suffered much, love.
How could she not mention a heart condition?
There was nothing to be done. She didn't want you to worry.
I'm her son. I had a right to know.
You're right.
What's the matter with you, Wicks?
I want to see my brother.
You're not going to. It's time we got used to the idea.
I want to see Sam! Let me see him!
It's obvious he can't look after himself.
Try getting him to admit that.
So what do we do? Never going to move in with Graham and Cynthia. Or us, for that matter.
Well, we don't have to do anything for a while. Let's stay and see how things look in a couple of weeks. Jim?
I meant to mention it earlier. There's going to be an appeal in the Wicks case.
Oh, for God's sake, Jim, couldn't you have turned it down? Haven't you got enough to think about?
Well, I might as well be doing something. There's no point in just sitting here brooding.
But you've just said that we have to do something about your father. How can you solve that problem in the Court of Appeal? Don't you think that you're avoiding the real issue? You haven't mentioned your mother once since she died. You've just closed yourself off. That's why you're so keen to go back into court. It's so you can hide.
Don't start giving me that psychiatric mumbo-jumbo. What do you want me to do? Go around crying and hugging everybody?
Might be a start.
I'll speak to Dad before I go in the morning.
I'm not interested. You can save your breath.
Nobody said anything about going to a home. I'm talking about a trained nurse coming in for a few hours a day to make sure you're all right.
Nurses cost money.
I'll pay for it.
I won't be beholden.
You're being totally unreasonable.
And you're interfering.
She'd only been there a few seconds. She's not seriously hurt.
The prison will kill her. You've got to get her out of there.
That rests with the Court of Appeal, Mr. Wicks.
Well, at least we won't have the jury to worry about. I'd rather put my faith in the judges. At least they're qualified to examine the evidence properly. I've been studying the precedents, and in my opinion, there are two grounds we can win on. Now, the newspaper coverage was prejudicial, and the prosecution kept on asking leading questions.
The leading questions go nowhere. The evidence would have come out anyway. And I don't believe the Court of Appeal would ever find the media coverage prejudicial enough to make the conviction unsafe.
The papers put us in here. It was a campaign of vilification. Now, I want you to nail them.
Perhaps I'm not making myself clear, Mr. Wicks. The coverage may have upset you, but as grounds for overturning the conviction, it's a non-starter.
Mr. Kavanagh feels that Judge Ransom's summing up was seriously flawed.
God, he was against us from the start.
I doubt that, but whatever the reason, it offers us a number of avenues for argument.
All right. If you say so. You're the expert.
Mr. Wicks, if you're not happy, you have every right to look elsewhere.
No. I'm putting my faith in you, Mr. Kavanagh. I'm very confident you're not going to let me down.
It was very decent of you, Jeremy.
Well,
Thank
it's
you.
the least I can do. Would you like a brandy or a liqueur?
Both, please. In the same glass.
The truth is, I do have an ulterior motive for this invitation.
Oh, I thought you just wanted to wish me goodbye in style.
Well, that's partly it, of course. The thing is, I've been thinking. I'm sure it's the right thing for both of us. The thing is, I want you to marry me.
Oh, my God. You're serious?
Yes, I'm deadly serious.
But why?
Because, despite appearances, we're right for each other.
We're total opposites. We don't agree about anything. We're utterly, completely, and hilariously mismatched.
No, that's the whole point, don't you see? We're suppressing what we really feel beneath a facade of bickering and hostility.
It's not a facade, Jeremy. We're genuinely incompatible.
I know why you're going to Africa. You're struggling to fill a void in your emotional life. Sacrificing your best years. Starving isn't the answer.
Oh, and you are?
Yes. It's suddenly become clear to me. God, when I think of the years I've wasted with ghastly debs and brain-dead bimbos, when all along, what I've wanted is someone with guts and spirit, backbone. Someone, in short, like you.
Well, I can honestly say I'm surprised. No, that doesn't sound quite right. I think astounded might be the word.
Well?
Absolutely, unconditionally, no.
I don't want you to rush into anything.
Jeremy.
No, don't say another word. Just give yourself some time to get used to the idea. I think you'll find I'm right.
A-N-T. Ant? It's a bit feeble.
Dad's got his mind on higher things.
What's that supposed to mean?
Nothing. It's just you've hardly been here since Gran died. And even when you are, you wish you weren't. It's not fair to leave it all to Mum. You should be here with Grandad.
Don't be so bloody self-righteous. I suppose you're going to say she's got a point.
I wish you'd stop shouting.
Caroline Wiggs tried to commit suicide this morning. She's all right, but she won't last another 5 minutes in jail. What do you want me to do, Kate? Walk away from her?
She's not your responsibility.
Isn't she?
There are other barristers.
It may be, but there isn't another one who knows what this appeal is about in the way that I do. Now, that's not vanity, that's fact. If you really want to know, there's a lot of things about this case I don't like, starting with that brother of hers. But it is my responsibility to go through with it, and I am bloody well going to do it, all right? And if you believe I wouldn't rather be with my family, you're not as bright as I thought you were.
Holidays. All 7 letters. I'd like to see somebody beat that.
Mr. Kavanagh, we've all read the papers in this appeal. Since the grounds ultimately amount to stating that the learned judge's conduct of the trial was prejudicial, we thought it only right to inform you that we have not, for ourselves, found, on reading the transcript material, evidence to substantiate that complaint.
May I then refer your lordships to page 40 of the transcript, section E to G.
Yes. This is where the learned judge stopped the defendants chatting amongst themselves before they gave evidence.
But they were not about to give evidence. That is the heart of the matter. The implication to the jury that they were colluding was wholly unjustified.
Mr. Kavanagh, the learned judge was very quick on another occasion to tell Mr. Pembridge, and therefore the jury, that Mr. Wicks was carrying out a perfectly proper cross-examination.
The grounds for this appeal, my lord, are cumulative. I would ask you to recall what the learned judge said to the prosecution witness, Mrs. Tully. At the end of her evidence, he went out of his way to thank her, which in our submission gave the impression to the jury that he endorsed her evidence.
There's law on that, Mr. Kavanagh, and it's against you. In my view, the jury is more likely to regard that as a common courtesy.
On its own, my lord, it might be. But taken with all the other examples of prejudice set out in the grounds of appeal, it can have only one meaning.
It is also your intention to criticise the learned judge's summing up, Mr. Kavanagh?
It is, my lord.
We shall eagerly anticipate that after we've taken luncheon.
We should have gone with the newspapers.
I think it's going as well as can be expected.
That's all right for you to say. You're not looking at going back to life imprisonment.
Mr. Kavanagh's doing his best, sir.
What do you know about it? We are being destroyed out there. Can't you see
that? Mr. Kavanagh, I'm most reluctant to stop you, but, and I'm sure I speak for my learned brothers as well as for myself, there is no more that can be said on this point that will assist us.
Then I must seek your lordship's indulgence, because I do want to say two more things.
On this same issue?
My lord, yes. First, the jury were not given a fair summary of the defence's case on Duncan Pembridge's motive for giving evidence against the appellants. The judge made no mention of Duncan Pembridge's failure to tell the police or the jury about the spare key his mother kept under a plant pot at the house. In the circumstances of this case, he had to do so. Second, the learned judge's direction to the jury about Mrs. Tully's identification of the accused was wholly inadequate. He failed to remind them that she was unable to tell the court with confidence who was driving. My lords, these matters render these convictions wholly unsafe and wholly unsatisfactory.
We have decided to allow this appeal. In view of the matters put before us, we find these convictions unsafe and unsatisfactory. Mr. Justice Caxton will give the judgment to the court.
Is it right for us to go, Mr. Kavanagh?
Yes, you're free now.
What happens now?
Nothing. It's over, Miss Wicks.
I don't know what to do.
Do about what?
I'll tell you what we're going to do.
Go out and celebrate.
Mr. Wick, yes? What will you be doing now all this is over?
Well, we'll be going home and trying to forget this whole ordeal.
Mr. Kavanagh, you put a cold-blooded murderer back in the streets. You must be very proud. The appeal decision is an insult. For reasons that have nothing to do with truth and everything to do with legal trickery, the killers are now free. The fact that the law can be manipulated by unscrupulous lawyers fills me with disgust.
Are you talking about anyone specific?
They know who they are. But it doesn't end here. I'm planning to sue for damages in the civil court. I want those two named as the killers they are.
I'll be up on the 5 o'clock train.
Sure you can make it?
Of course I can make... Sorry. I'm just a bit tired. I'll see you tomorrow. Forget something.
How do you sleep, Kavanagh?
Who's this?
Doesn't the truth mean anything to you?
Is that you, Pembridge?
You make me sick.
Caro!
Some of these are almost new.
He wants us to get rid of everything. What are you going to do, Jim? You know it was Pembridge who made that call.
It was a one-off. He won't do it again.
He threatened you. What if Kate had picked up the phone?
He's not dangerous. He just feels betrayed by the system. I was the nearest target to hand.
Well, you may regard it as an occupational hazard, but I happen not to like when some embittered thug threatens the people I love.
Do you think I like it? Do you think I like the thought that Wicks might well be the killer and I was instrumental in getting him off? Well, I don't. I hate it. But there's not much I can do about that either, is there?
Duncan, hello.
Bye, Grandad.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Yeah, and you.
I don't think we need to worry, but if anything does happen...
I'll call the police. Are you going to be all right?
Yeah, I'll be fine. I just need some time alone with Dad.
Bye, Dad.
Bye-bye.
This is the place. All I want's a nice wooden bench with a memorial plaque. Nothing very fancy, just her name and a few words. She'll be very pleased with that. Say what's on your mind, son.
I've often wondered how she felt about the way things turned out for me. She was proud, I felt that, but... feeling's not the same as being told, is it?
Take me back, lad. Every single one of the cases that you did that got reported, right from the beginning, she was fascinated and bursting with pride.
She always changed the subject when I talked about work.
She was always a bit in awe of your learning.
So many times I wanted to talk about things.
She didn't think it was her place to ask.
I used to talk to her for hours when I was a kid. Rattle on for hours. There were so many things I wanted to say to her.
Don't have any doubts. She thought the world of what you've achieved.
Well, she had a higher opinion of me than I do of myself at the moment.
We're going to miss her, aren't we?
What are you doing?
I've got a headache.
Where did you go when you went out yesterday, Clara?
Nowhere. Just walked.
You should have waited. I'd come with you. You know, I only worry when I don't know where you are.
I think we should make things right, Sam. Talk to someone who can help us. I keep thinking about what we did.
I've told you so many times, Carol. They were cruel and evil, and I had to do it. They wanted to split us up. Without the money, I wouldn't have been able to look after you anymore. Don't forget what they did to our mother. I couldn't let them do that to us.
It's too much for my head. It keeps going round and round. I've got to let it out.
But you haven't talked to anyone, have you? Carol. It's all right. I understand. Think about it. I'll work something out.
If you've got a problem, go to your own solicitor.
Just tell Kavanagh I'm here.
Either you go now, or I'll have you thrown out.
He's right, Mr. Pembridge. You've got no business here.
It's all right, Mr. Kavanagh. Leave this to me.
He did it. She told me he did it.
That's nothing to do with me.
She won't go to the police. Someone has to make her testify at the civil court. I haven't got a chance without her.
I would advise you not to shout at me, Mr. Pembridge.
You got them off. It's your responsibility. What are you going to do about it?
Get out of here, Mr. Pembridge. And if you ever come near me or my family again, I'll have you arrested.
Don't you care? Don't you even bloody care?
Get out of here!
I hardly need add that Julia will be much missed. Not least for her valiant efforts to keep us men in order. Rivercourt's loss is Africa's gain. To Julia. Julia.
To Julia.
You're going to have to compete, James, if you want Helen as your junior. I shall be first in the queue.
I wouldn't dream of pushing in, Peter.
I do hope we can work together again at some point, James.
No doubt we will.
I look forward to it.
Isn't that the Wicks girl?
I heard a shot. And Alice shouted something. And there was another shot. When Sam came back in, I asked him what had happened. But he just said to take a few of my favourite things from round the house. He said Alice wanted me to have them.
Why didn't you say this to the police?
Sam said if he went to prison, there'd be no one to look after me. I told Duncan because I felt sorry for him. But he started shouting at me again. I panicked. Please help me. I've got no one else to turn to.
I really can't. It's no longer anything to do with me, Miss Wicks.
But you can sort it all out. Tell the right people what happened.
Caroline, you've got to tell the police what you've just told us.
They'll only lock me up again. I lied in court. You talk to them for me. You're one of them. You can tell them I didn't mean to hurt anybody. They'll listen to you. Please help me.
Help you do what, Caroline? Hmm? You know, Mr. Kavanagh charges a lot of money for his time, love. I don't think you can afford him.
I didn't say anything, Sam.
Be quiet now. Look, I'm sorry for any embarrassment.
I don't want to go.
Come on. You've got to rest, Carol. You're upset. Come on. Come on. Enjoy the party.
Stay here. I'm calling the police. Wainwright will have the Wicks' address.
Jim?
You've heard what she said. He's a killer. I can't stand by and do nothing. Yes, it is an emergency. Get someone there immediately.
What if nothing's wrong when they get there?
Then I'll be prosecuted for wasting police time. Wait for me.
It's all right. It's all right. I just need to rest. I've just got everything mixed up. Come on. Come on, Karen. Come on. Come on, just a few more. Come on. Please. Please. Come on.
to speak to your sister, Caroline Angela Wicks.
She's asleep. She doesn't want to talk to you now. It'll only take a few minutes. She's asleep! She's asleep!
Alpha Bravo 200, this is an active message. Please send a paramedic and an ambulance immediately to a suspected drug overdose. Samuel Thomas Wicks, I am charging you with the attempted murder of your sister, Caroline Angela Wicks. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defense if you do not mention now something which you later rely on in court.
It's a close thing. It should be okay. I think this time she will give evidence against him.
Let's go home.
You and I think alike, Helen. Commercial law is where the smart barrister's bread is buttered. It's placid and lucrative. One can barely imagine rushing around after one's clients, trying to stop them poisoning their sisters. Morning, James.
Jeremy. Comfortably established, Helen?
Yes, thank you.
I happen to have got my hands on 2 tickets for Don Giovanni tonight. I don't suppose...
I hope this isn't going to set a trend, James. I wouldn't want to see vigilante barristers fanning out all over town.
The situation called for something unconventional, Peter.
I fear whatever comes next is going to seem a little mundane by comparison.
Bring it on, Peter, bring it on. Whatever it is, I'm ready.